What is up, guys? Patriots here, and by the title you're probably confused out of your mind. You probably think I'm talking about races or something like that, but no, today we are talking about the minority and the majority of this Call of Duty community, the people who purchase Call of Duty. You know, we are here on YouTube pretty much the minority. If you want to relate this to what has now become Occupy the World, we are the 1%, you know, all those people out there who make those, you know, #1 day sales, like, you know, break every single record on the planet. You know, those people are the 99%. They are the majority of the fan base, you know, the people who buy the game. And, you know, this is, the reason I'm talking about this is because I've gotten into this argument with Cinematic multiple times. Where, you know, I'm complaining about death streaks being in the game. You know, nobody in what I see as the vocal community being the guys here on YouTube who are, you know, dedicating, you know, hours of their day, you know, time out of their lives to talk about this game that they care deeply about. You know, we're not the guys calling for Painkiller. We're not the guys, you know, calling for death streaks. You know, we're not those people. And I always say, you know, why don't they listen to us? You know, we're the people who care. We're the people who matter. And, you know, he'll always tell me, which is really true, that, you know, we're not the majority here. You know, the majority of the people don't care. And, you know, when it comes to not caring, here's how I look at it. If, you know, they probably don't, you know, when they put in Modern Warfare 3 November 8th, they're not worried about whether or not, you know, it has death streaks or what perks are in the game. They're like, alright, this is Call of Duty, this is the big game, I gotta own this. Like, here's my example, and, you know, this might make no sense to you, but just listen. Say there's Six Flags, and there's Disney, and you're offered either one, a free vacation to Six Flags or Disney. You know, maybe Six Flags is the better amusement park, however, you know, Disney gives you that street cred. Like, if someone comes up to you and asks, you know, where'd you go on vacation? Be like, I went to Disney, man. They're like, oh yeah, so you went to Cinderella's castle. You know, they're like that. But if you're like, I went to Six Flags, they're like, oh yeah, was that fun? You know, was that good? That interesting? You know, it's that street cred of being able to say, hey man, what games you got? What do you play? I play Call of Duty. You don't want to be like that guy's like, you know, I'm level 300 in Homefront. Like, you don't want to be that guy. So, you know, you buy the Call of Duty games. But, you know, in the end, the majority doesn't really care. They're not like, ah, shucks, one-man army is in the game. You know, it might annoy some of them, but it doesn't annoy them or make them care to the point where they go to Twitter, they go to YouTube, you know, they go through all this time and effort. Don't want to make this sound like it's difficult, but they go through all this time and effort to, you know, try to make it known that this isn't acceptable and this needs to be changed. They don't do that. They're like, guess I'll play Madden, another, you know, game bot, so I can have that street card. Be like, what games you play, man? I play Madden. Oh, you good at Madden? Yeah. I won a game with the Oakland Raiders. Like, who cares? Shut up. Well, you play Madden, so therefore you're cool. You know, if NFL 2K was still being made and you were like the guy who's like, or if you're even that guy who's still like NFL 2K5, I'd be one of those guys because I'm pretty sure that was my favorite football game, but, you know, it doesn't sound as wonderful when you say NFL 2K5. They're like, oh, was that good? But they're like Madden. They're like, oh yeah, I got Madden, man. You know, that whole street cred thing I'm getting back to again. I was going to relate this to drugs, but I'm going to stay off that topic. Let's just say, you know, saying you went home and ate cotton candy wouldn't work with street cred as well as saying you went home and, you know, smoked pot or whatever, you know. You're like, so what you doing after school? Eating cotton candy. Oh, you like cotton candy? Yeah. But what you doing after school? Smoke pot? Ooh, that's illegal. You know, that whole like street cred thing. Back to the street cred. But, you know, what I'm saying is, why don't, you know, I'm assuming that, you know, the vocal part of this community, you know, we may be wrong in certain situations about what they should do with the game. But I'm going to say most of our ideas are, they're sensible and they will make the game better. Because, you know, if that majority speaks out, you know, every once in a while, they're like, yeah, we want zombie attack dogs. Like, we want the world to blow up. Like, you know, they come up with these crazy ideas that maybe sound fun, but not if you're going to play the game for a year. And I just think that our portion would make a better game. And since they don't really care, why don't we listen to the vocal minority who, you know, deeply cares about your game? Like, you know, I've been working hard at trying to get this game early, and it hasn't panned out. I was looked over for bigger YouTubers. I was just completely shut down. Blockbuster, screw you, lady. Me and her got in this. I wish I recorded this, but it wasn't really a prank call. It was like a serious phone call. I called Blockbuster in, I guess, what would be the ghetto part of Massachusetts, if that's possible. And I was like, you know, yo, you get Modern Warfare 3 early. They're like, yeah, you know, we're gonna get it this day. I was like, okay, you know, can I buy that? She was like, no, we can't sell it, man. It's illegal. I was like, I'm paying $250 for this game. It ain't illegal, first of all. I'm paying $250. Yeah, man, I'll get fired. I'm like, all right, you know, I'm going back to the PKA thing. They always tell the GameStop and Walmart employees, you work at Blockbuster. Get over it. Get another job. It's Blockbuster. It's not like you're the executive vice president of something, or you're the... I mean, even if you were the executive vice president of Blockbuster, your company's in friggin'... They're terrible. You're poor as hell in the U.S., so it doesn't even matter. But it's not like you know, the presidential aide. You're the frickin', you know, employee at Blockbuster who goes, would you like to extend that for 2 weeks for another 15... No. Shut up, lady. Would you like to buy a gift? No. Would you like to buy a... No. I don't want to buy a friggin' gift card. I don't want to buy anything. I just want to get my rental and I want to leave. Would you like to cancel Netflix? No, I wouldn't like to cancel Netflix. You know that, like, that thing that they try to push on you? Kind of like GameStop employees are like, would you like to pre-order? I'm like, no, I want to buy my game and get out of here. Well, would you like to... No, I wouldn't. Well, you can get a power-up... I have a power-up reward card. You know that whole thing? Okay. I'm so lost. But the point is I'm dedicated to getting this game early. I deeply care about this game. Like, you know, the world goes round when the new Call of Duty comes out because I spend a year worrying about the new Call of Duty. You know, not only if I wasn't doing YouTube would I just be playing Call of Duty for the next year, but I make videos about this game. I care so much about how good this game is, and I don't think that that guy is going to pick it up November 8th. You know, he's going to throw it in, play the single player first, and then he's going to hop into multiplayer, and he might get, you know, maybe 6 hours played. Maybe. Because, you know, I'm going to say a good majority of the majority don't get, you know, two days played even. You know, they maybe a day and a half or so. But, you know, I put in 10, 12 days per console, usually. And that's the bare minimum. Like, Modern Warfare 2, even though I hated the game, I had like 60 days played between the consoles, between the systems. COD 4, I have hundreds of days played. Black Ops, I have like 10 on Xbox and probably like 8 on PS3 and probably a day or 2 on PC. And I didn't really play that game too often just because there were a lot of other games I wanted to get to this year. But, you know, there is a vocal minority who has better ideas, and the majority doesn't care. The minority is the ones who you should be trying to please, and they just don't seem to be doing that, and it aggravates me. And, you know, if this keeps up, we're going to have to do the Occupy Infinity Ward, where the 1% occupies Infinity Ward rather than the 99%. Because oddly enough, if they listen to the 1%, I don't think the 99% would do Occupy Infinity Ward. I don't think they'd care. They just move on and go play Battlefield. Anyways, guys, just want to plug a few things here at the end of the video. Go check out Steam. There's a lot of great sales. I just, you know, impulse bought every single thing on their sale pretty much. And my Twitter is in the description. Please like the video, comment with your thoughts on what I just said. And other than that, guys, I love you, and I'll see you all later.